but he is going up against RDU, who I feel like, whether he would agree with this or not, people would feel like he has something to prove because of his bad performance in Swiss, right? His scores in Swiss was not great. He's doing well so far in round robin, and as we've mentioned, round robin is something that just counts more now. Swiss is done. It's been decided. If you do well in round robin, all is forgotten to a certain extent. So I think a lot is on for RDU here to do well. We do see the classes now a double warrior band once again, but this time we have Druid and Hunter for Bozzdton, along with that Demon Hunter, and Warlock and Rogue for RDU. So two very different lineups here, so.
Yeah, and before we get into that, I actually want to pick up on both of those points because I think they're worth talking about. I think Bozzdton actually falls into the category of potentially an overthinker in Hearthstone, where sometimes I think the crazy situations that we see in Bozzdton games are no fluke, but because sometimes the over-engineers games to be too complex, where actually a more simple outcome would be more effective. And secondly, with RDU, I do also want to say that I said he had his first real test last week, and I also said that he passed with flying colours, which I think is very fair to do. I think he played very, very clean in the opportunity that he was given, so now RDU can't really do much more than keep on marching forward and trying to get some wins under his belt.
Yeah, let's take a look at the deck summaries and see what they are going to be going up against each other with. As I mentioned, the lineups, just in terms of classes, are different. But we are going to see this Spell Druid, something we would have seen a lot throughout the Swiss portion of the of Grandmasters. Temple Demon Hunter, not too much of a surprise. And then Bozzdton being another Acolyte, the Face Hunter path here, going for that instead of a Highlander list.
Yeah, and Spell Druid was a bit of a surprise to me coming in this week. It wasn't really one of the responses to the anti-rogue meta, I guess. Not like to counter rogue, but just being against rogue because it sucks. Spell Druid was not really a deck that I was predicting to come in, and it's not really a deck that we've seen a great deal of in Europe since really week 1 or 2. It's been more common in APAC, a little bit over in Americas as well, I believe, but we've kind of been the holdout in not really bringing this deck for the last couple of weeks, whereas there are now one or two players who are just packing it back into their lineup.
Yeah, now we see the Zoo Warlock and the Galakron Secret Rogue as the two differences here for RDU. And I will say, I feel like Zoolock is becoming almost like the darling deck of the moment. I see a lot of players, a lot of Grandmasters streaming it, talking about it a lot, trying to work on different builds. And funnily enough, I saw some tweets earlier today about even newer builds with, guess what, Sol, if you remember, a ton of Org Merchants in there. 4, in fact, because they're
that's
good.
What I'm talking about.
They're good in the mirror, apparently.
Yeah,
which makes sense, and good against a Demon Hunter specifically as well. So all of which makes sense, and all of which I think we were discussing this specifically in testing as well, which is kind of funny how it works. But I do find there's still a lot to go with Zoo. I don't think anyone's really fully decided on how it is built because there are many different ways already. And I do think there's a lot to go. So I'm actually really excited for this matchup. It's not too often we just get very different lineups clash.
Agreed. On that note as well, RDU actually tweeted himself recently that he realized he felt now that he was wrong, and actually this build of Zoo that he's running was better than the charge version, and that he's now convinced of that thanks to some new practice partners. So you can see the Zoo is still evolving, but I do think that mirror tech is something that needs to be worked on, because if the Zoo mirror becomes more and more prevalent, if more people keep bringing Zoo, there's not a lot of edge to be found in the Zoo mirror just by playing it better than your opponent. We were testing it, couldn't really find anything worth talking about. So I even consulted with some well-known Zoo players who've been playing the deck for a long time, and they said very similar things. So if you're looking to find an edge in the Zoo mirror, you're probably just going to need to build your deck better than your opponent than actually reliably outplay them in that matchup.
Yeah, it was very tough. And I do think the Org Merchants might be the key to unlock that certain style. But we are going to get into game number 1, Demon Hunter Mirror. And just a quick glance at the list. Bozzdton is going for the Priestess of Fury style build with only 1 Skull of Gul'dan. But as you can see, the double Sightless Watcher. And then RDU, I believe, is just going for that lower curve, get the sidekicks in, and keep the curve as low as possible, and max it to Skull of Gul'dan's build. So a clash of sort of half archetypes here.
And having now located the tweet, it was Gallon that RDU tweeted with this week that convinced him that the no charger zoo was the superior build. So no real surprise there. I guess Gallon has been like the #1 advocate for his particular build of zoo since before GM even started, really, when no one else was taking the deck seriously.
I did hear whisperings of Gallon liking zoo a little bit, so it seemed to add up. I will say though, just your comment on Silas Watcher that are in both plays, and funnily enough, in last match that Pavel was running, I do think it's got much more of a space in a Priestess of Fury deck. Because as you mentioned, you really want to draw the good ones, right? You really want to draw that package. And Sightless Watcher does help with that, even though the minion as a minion overall is probably been deemed a little bit low power level to not make it 30 cards in most teams.
Yeah, and again, I think, the debate will rage on. But the Priestess of Fury players this week, I think, have got a better argument than they had last week. Just because, again, you can kind of predict what the reaction to Rogue's performance last week will be. And you can say, okay, there's going to be less Rogue. So, Beaming Psychic loses a bit of value in terms of playing around Backstab and Seal Fate. And then you can also be of the opinion that, well, maybe we're going to see bigger, greedier decks. In which case, well, maybe I want to have a bit more late game going through with Priestess of Fury to be able to compete with those greedier decks that I'm expecting to see. So I think, the Priestess of Fury players this week do have a leg to stand on.
Just the one, though, not two. They'll be hopping around for a bit.
One and like a peg leg. Their second leg's wooden. Yeah.
That's fine. You see Sightless Watcher, and there's a Raging Fell Screamer for Curve, and there is a Priestess of Fury. So like some Hearthstone Prophet, I've basically seen the outcome of this game. RDU does have some of the key cards as well, though they both now have access to Warglaive of Azanoth, but then the Frozen Shadow Weaver and the sheer power of Glaive-bound Adept, probably the card that received the least bruises from the nerfs the previous wave. Still just a very, very high impact card. But at the moment, RDU does not have a Twin Slice to pair with it to get it off on that turn 5 play.
Certainly for now, it looks like RDU is going to get bullied by this board state.
I've been playing a good chunk, but I lean more towards the lower curve Demon Hunter. And at this point in the game, I start to feel pretty bad about my life choices because they've played a Rage of Fell Screamer, you're not super far ahead, and you know what is coming next, and you just don't really beat it. At least in my experience. I don't know if you've come across anything too different, but if the Priestess comes down on a reasonable size board, it is incredibly difficult fight back as the lower curve demon.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory, right? Like, if they've matched your early game while playing a bigger, greedier deck, you're going to be in trouble because they have a bigger, greedier deck that can just, fight much more efficiently in the late game. The goal and the idea is that you just out-tempo them so hard in the early game that cards like Priestess of Fury just aren't enough to catch up. Curious here whether Bozzzton is going to preserve a 3-2 with the way he trades here. He can choose to push face. I think it is low teens % that thing would live and be able to punish him, and even then, not that much of a punish.
So close to being able to clear this. And this is the biggest point. Although you're completely right, of course, if you play the slightly slower version and the game goes slowly, you'll probably do pretty well. But there are so many limited ways for Demon Hunter to actually do 7 damage on curve, and we're about to see the filth, right? Like, look at the damage RDU has to tank. And if he doesn't do this, though, he's dead because of the 6 extra damage. So this is just the way it's going to be. That's going to be game number 1. Bozzzton just about got the combo off with the help of the Sightless Watcher. He takes game number 1, the Demon Hunter Mirror.
Yeah, very nicely done. Not really a great deal to break down there. Just a very smooth and effective curve for Bozzzton. Did not get one of those super awkward hands that you sometimes see, like we saw a turn 3 get skipped in the previous series, which can potentially spell disaster. His curve was pretty smooth, and as I said, if you match the early game and you're the one with the late game options when you get there, then you're going to be in business.
Really are. Bozzzton is in business now with no crazy shenanigans in that game, taking a 1-game lead over RDU in that Demon Hunter mirror. We're going to go to a quick break while we get ready for game number 2. So we'll be right back with some more Hearthstone.
Language Hacker, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, Subtle, thank you for having me.
Oh, no, the pleasure is mine.
I assure you, Subtle, the pleasure is all mine.
Would you like to have a seat?
Yeah, sure. After you, of course.
Oh, no, you're the guest. You sit.
I don't think I can. I need you to sit down, Subtle.
Okay. No, really,
Subtle, please just sit down.
okay, together. 3, 2, 1, sit.
Okay.
3.
On sit or on one?
We go 3, 2, 1, sit on 0.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, sit. Damn it. 1-0 to me, hi. Actually, before we get started, do you want a bottle of water or anything I can get for you?
No, thank you, but I actually did just make you some hot tea. I know it's your favorite.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, it's good, but you forgot the lemon.
Don't forget the lemon.
Damn, this guy's good. I gotta focus.
How's Grace?
Oh, she's great. Thanks for asking. How does he know my wife's name?
And Kupo and Shinx?
And how on earth does he know the names of my cats? Oh, they're good. That's incredible. You don't forget anything, do you?
Well, Subtle, we Canadians like to remember things about our friends.
That's so sweet. I don't know what to say. Wow, I didn't even realize we were friends.
You don't have to say anything, Subtle. I'm just happy to be here with my 4th favorite caster.
Wow, what a guy. Wait, 4th? What the
Welcome back, everybody. Language Hacker's 4th favorite caster here, reporting for duty. We are mid-series here. I just want to let you guys know that we did patch it up after that. It turns out that his top 3 casters are Crip, Reynad, and Savitz. So I'm actually in like really good company overall. So I guess I'll take 4th in that scenario.
Yeah, one of the weird things about after I watched that, obviously I wasn't there when it was recorded. So the first time I saw it, I was like, haha, I'm going to swoop right in with only 4th. Then I realized he didn't actually say where I was, so I was a little bit afraid because there's a lot below 4, right? So I was never really going to go in for that one too much. But we are back with Bozzzton and RDU here. Bozzzton taking a win with his Demon Hunter in the mirror in game number 1, but plenty left to play for as we see both these players pretty varied and different lineups clash. The Demon Hunters, funnily enough, from the game 1, are the only similar decks going to be in the whole matchup. So it's going to be the Zoo and the Rogue for RDU, and then the Hunter and the Druid for Bozzzton. It's funny I actually just say Zoo and not Warlock. I don't know, it's so ingrained as it's almost a separate class.
It's just Zoo, yeah. We've been saying Zoo for like 6 years at this point. Like, why would we stop? It's just very much part of the identity of not just Hearthstone, of card games in general, right? Like,
right.
It's just Zoo. It's just what it is.
It really is. We are going to be going into game number 2 by the sounds of it, and I think it is going to be a Druid versus Rogue matchup. And this is always just a strange one for me, Salto. I never really know who gets on top here, and it really does just feel down to how big the glow flies on 5 is for Rogue.
yes, firstly, there needs to be the early Glowfly for Druid, which, you know, they're pretty favoured to get with cards Fungal Fortunes, all that kind of business, to be able to draw through their deck quite efficiently, Rising Winds as well, just to be able to dig for all those options. But if the Glowfly Swarm does come down, obviously there is Flick, but quite often that doesn't answer on curve, and it gives the Druid an opportunity to get like Soul of the Forest down, or even just, you know, Savage Draw straight up lethal sometimes if the Rogue isn't able to deal with it. Otherwise, you've just got to have the fastest start imaginable as Rogue, and just have so many minions in play that you can actually pick apart the first Druid board that comes down manually without too much removal available.
Yep, get your Rogue bingo cards ready, because that is Hanar with a Bamboozle follow-up for RDU now, so you can go for the secret package. I do feel, at least post-coin, that the secrets really do mess with Druid, because they are casting a lot of spells, so that can lean towards Counterspell, Netherwing Portal, even some of the other secrets like, what's the Paladin one called? Plus health after spells cast. Anyway.
Never Surrender?
That's the one. Because RDU will quite consistently know that Bozzzton wants to play a lot of spells throughout his turns, he can just really lean into which secrets he picks here to almost guarantee value going forward.
Sure.
Bozzzton's eyes close as soon as he sees the secret. He's like, so it begins.
Sorry, it's super weird. Just based on the, like, I guess there's some latency between the game board feed we're watching and the player camera, but it looked like RDU played that turn like no hands gamer style. His hands were up around his mouth, and then suddenly a bunch of secrets appeared on the game. It's like, has RDU invested into eye tracking software as well?
Maybe he has got his glasses on, so it's possible. Or just like foot pedals somehow.
Hmm.
Imagine we never know. He might be actually on like an Omni mill, or like some kind of like treadmill below. Legs are just doing all the work. Oh, is Bozzzton actually gonna go in? Just attack to face. Now he knows it's not Noble Sacrifice. That's about all he got from that turn.
So what's the reasoning behind attacking face there and not the minion? Isn't Bamboozle good for you here?
I want to say... I don't know. It's a real talk. Maybe Bozzzton just thinks that if at worst, Radu gets 5 secrets and that's his whole turn again. So Bozzzton's not dying anytime soon. And maybe if he keeps this game slow, then he can actually pop off later on with all, you know, the big spells, the things Druid wants to do in the game right now. Maybe that's just the idea, right? Is, okay, I'm getting beaten up by a 1/5 and the secrets don't ever do too much outside of maybe a Netherwing Portal.
Okay. I buy it. Those of you keeping track, or we have a Redemption and a Bamboozle still in play. You saw the Dirty Tricks get dealt with on the previous turn. I do like the way RDU's playing this, though. He's not trying to just pop off super hard with secrets every turn. He is just developing. He recognizes that that is important. Obviously, finding explosive traps, and Flame Wards are huge in this matchup from Hanar. But generally, as I was saying before, like, the more minions you have in play, the less you need those spells anyway, because you're just able to contest the boards more efficiently with just the minions that you have in play.
That's why I think on this turn I actually do like the Shield of Galakron. Because 1, not only is it a big minion, 2, Bamboozle is still active, which means that's going to be an 8-drop if it gets attacked. But also, just start building into securing that board. Now, yes, there's Explosive Trap, but the weird part with this is there's Explosive Trap that Bozzzton could just hero power face into. And then, so what? You know, right, RDU got another secret from that, but I feel like that turn could have just been more heavy board development. I wonder if this is ever just Bozzzton holds the coin for Ysera and then just goes Ysera into Overflow and then just says, right, let's go then.
It's interesting, right? I was kind of looking at the same thing. I was looking at what Overflow meant this turn. If you just coin Overflow and then try and spend some other cards, you would end up still burning 1, I think, in that scenario.
He probably has to Moonfire first anyway, right? In case it's Counterspell.
Well, you're coining Overgrowth.
Oh, I guess. Sure.
So you can choose whether you want to have the Moonfire or the coin, I guess, which, yeah, you probably still want the coin in that scenario.
And I actually think the Ysera would end up putting out more of a threat because of the way the early game is played out here. Bozzzton hasn't had a chance to land any minions. He can just go Ysera into dragons most turns, or a wave of dragons. Rogue doesn't really have access to abilities to deal with that. Like, he kills one-offs, right? In the dragons, it's not gonna, unless a duplicate that doesn't just kill all dragons. So, do you think I like Bozzzton going for this plan?
A potential problem with that is that Bozzzton still doesn't know whether it's Bamboozle or Ambush for the final secret. So there's a chance he just plays a 9-mana 4/12 into a 2/3 that trades with it evenly, and then RDU just plays a bunch more minions this turn and just hits face for a ton, which, yeah, I get he's doing the same thing here. Like, all of this damage is going face still, but at least he got to progress his game plan in other ways with the increased ramp.
That is true. I just wonder if the portals just outweigh even the worst situation.
They might have done.
My dream is your nightmare.
There they go.
Wah, wah.
May as well be an ambush.
Yep.
Can buff it back up again, though. Although we know it won't, because there's a spellbender's the mage secret, I believe.
Yep. So we'd have to Moonfire a target and then Ironbark instead. He has tested for Counterspell, so he knows it's not Counterspell in this scenario.
I guess.
Time waits for no one.
Moonfire on the 4/5 wouldn't be that terrible. Because it makes it within range of the Ysera Ranger.
Oh, straight off the rip. Okay. Okay.
Oh.
Here we are again. Bozzzton just somehow hits the cloudiest game of Hearthstone
That's
imaginable.
what I'm saying!
Okay, it wasn't that cloudy, to be fair.
Could have been, though.
Yeah. This is what I like to call the life coach approach to Nozdormu. He very famously, during a tournament, just instantly killed Nozdormu at the start of the term, where it definitely was not correct to do so, just so he
sat there and thought.
Just so he had time to think.
Think we're going to see a Shadow Step on the Krunks? Or do you think, actually, RDU has enough threats/secrets to just say, this is probably just lethal next turn with the 6/6?
I'm kind of into it. Shadow Step is a really good card with his hand, though, as you say. He does have a lot of threats, and he also has Flick, which is another super premium Shadow Step target.
Do you think he would ever have considered actually Shadow Step in the Stunner then?
I'll take that.
I just don't think he's particularly worried about these minions dying. I think that's the big point. Is that if he wants to Shadow Step anything, he's able to just attack with it next turn and then Shadow Step it anyway.
Yeah, purely because the Stunner's the one that's most likely to die, right? Because of its extremely low health, based on the board. I just wondered if it was ever worth it.
Are you going to throw targeted removal spells at your opponent's 2/2 this turn?
Maybe.
Sure you
I mean,
are.
I think we are picking over small things as well here, right? Because this looks very tough for Bozzzton to deal with, regardless.
Well, there's a lot of small things going on in this game, Raven.
Time waits for no one.
You kind of need picking.
Ooh?
Okay.
Time!
Now he does really need to kill that Stunner.
Ooh.
Not sure what happens here for Bozzzton. Just going to wait for animations
got
to
the
resolve
overflow.
themselves and figure out. Okay. Nice.
A minute later, we're going to resolve this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, Bozzzton plays the Starfall. That killed off the Stunner.
Okay, sure.
I definitely knew that when I suggested it.
Yeah. So now 6, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17 damage can go face if you step the Blackjack Stunner. Don't think there's any other damage in hand, right?
Can he... Does Flick ever do better? get 2 more damage, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so 6, 10,
18
14,
hero power. Yeah,
16,
flick hero
17,
power.
18. Yeah, flick hero power is lethal, yeah.
That was the question as to why I thought also not Shadow Step in the stunner was fine, because as a one-off kill, you have flick, or Ardu has...
So many options.
I'm not going crazy on my soul. I always have to ask myself this.
Don't let the door hit you.
6, 10, 14, 16, 17, 18, dagger is 19. Yeah, I'm like pretty sure that's
RDU
just
does
lethal.
not have a Ysera on his side of the board that would die, which therefore not give him lethal.
So Blackjack was 2. 6, 10, 14, 15, 16. Blackjack is 2 more for 18. Dagger is 1 for 19. Yeah, that was lethal.
That's exactly 8 mana. Okay, good. You always have to check if Raven's being silly. Still, RDU, even though of course missing lethal never fantastic, is in such a safe spot that it'll probably not end up mattering, but still, not something you want to do, and that sort of play has to be polished up, as it wasn't the most mind-blowing lethal to acquire there. But congratulations to RDU. This 1 against this Spell Druid from Bozzzton. One of the more outside-of-the-box picks here from Bozzzton, based on at least our metagame in the European Hearthstone Grandmasters.
Yeah, and I think I talked about a lot of things in the matchup early on about, you need to have the Glowfly Swarm early so you can flip the pressure very quickly on the Rogue. The Rogue needs to have got off to a just not an incredibly fast start. And then you don't want to get flicked on curve, and then the Druid can pretty much take over a lot of the time. Well, it just turned out that exactly the opposite of all of those things happened. Right. RDU had pretty much like the nut start in his build of the deck, which is just a Hanar sticking and just playing Infinite Secrets for the rest of the game. Bozzzton had a really, really slow opening, wasn't ramping early, wasn't Fungal Fortunes early, didn't have the Glowfly Swarm on curve, and I think you just kind of saw things just unravel from there.
And I guess the outcome, again, if we're just going to talk about alternate universe mode, where what if the second one did go into it and proc to Bamboozle, and then there were less secrets overall in the game to deal with? Would that have been better? Would that have been worse? I don't know, but it's an interesting point to consider. I also do think Bozzzton had the right idea with just saying, you know what, this is looking rough, Ysera time, and just go for it. Everything seemed to add up to that play in time.
Yeah, it was a fearful play for sure, because it could have been Ambush, it could have been Repentance. Turned out to be the latter, which really ruined his Ironbark play that turn. And even then, even if you do get the huge taunt down, there's Flick, there's Blackjack Stunner. RDU had all of those options. But anyway, enough about the past. Let's look at the present. Druid is queued back up again for Bozzzton. RDU now on the Demon Hunter, which if anything should be a better matchup than the one that he had previously against the Druid. So he has a good opportunity here to flip the series on its head and go out to a 2-1 lead.
Yeah, I think the Skull just being in hand for RDU, although it looks slow, I think it's quite good, because Druid does have access to a certain level of early removal to just stop the insane curve plays that Demon Hunter can out turns 1 to 4.
I got you, friend.
Now with the Altruist, it's mean that RDU can probably hack through any mid to late game issues and still have enough damage to push, so we'll see how this goes out. Awesome.
Yeah.
Have that wild
His hand
growth,
is
though.
His hand is filth. RDU just needs to play his top deck this turn, and then he has Kane on 4, hold your weapon charge if you can, into Gladebound on 5, into Skull on 6, into just blow up any board your opponent's making with the Altruist the turn after that. Wait, okay, he doesn't need a top deck at all. I thought he was going into 3 mana next turn, not 4. This curve's even better than I thought it was. Everything I said was accurate, I just can't count.
Welcome to my world, Sol.
Yeah.
Interesting point now here where Bozzzton does have the Starfall, 5 damage to the Kane. It is one of the higher health minions in the deck. But it is committing a Starfall against a archetype that goes quite wide with 2 health minions a lot of the time. So it's a tough one to swallow. He does just have Overgrowth. That he could just play, take the damage, and then try and go nuts next turn. Because he does have Moonfire coin into stuff with Kel'Thas too.
Time waits for no one.
Do you think he has to go for Overgrowth this turn? I think that's the way he wins.
Yeah, it's kind of reliant on drawing another cheap spell next turn.
To go triple. To go off twice.
Yes, because then he can just make like an insane taunt wall. But the problem is that in doing that, he's not going to be dealing with the Kayn, so his insane taunt wall doesn't actually do. Okay. And yes, actually now Crystal Power, Moonfire does kill the Kayn.
Looks like a plan to me.
So he's able to Forest Aid and give them all taunt with Gift of the Wild.
And obviously, Kayn will be gone. And not only from board, but the chance to have another one. So pretty safe here from Bozzzton. If he goes for it, though.
There's no other play. I would be baffled.
Doesn't look like a confident Kael'thas. Sol, prepare to be baffled.
Okay, I'm getting ready.
Strap in. He has to be the kill on the Kayn, right? It all adds up.
He's clearing?
And healing out instead. He's going to ignore the Kayn being the highest point avoidance and actually just outdo all the most of the damage on board and heal to 21. It is another route. Sottle, can I confirm if you are baffled or not?
I am.
Can't say you don't stick to your word, eh?
Maybe I'm like super caster visioned on the hand with like Warglaves, Altruis, various ways to deal with the board state. Altruis doesn't have the cheap cards to go with it, I guess.
Demons.
And also,
but I get what
is very not dead right now.
Yes, I get what he's going for. I will walk back on my being baffled plan. Because he's asking a lot of questions here in terms of what RDU needs to do to prevent the counter swing. This is a play of sort of aggressively trying to win the game over 1 or 2 turns. Because if RDU doesn't deal with the Kael'thas, then he potentially gets punished by like overflow here. Whereas if he doesn't deal with the 2/2s, then he's potentially getting punished by Savage Roar and Power of the Wild and Soul of the Forest and all of those other things as well. So RDU has a pretty tough choice to make. And I guess if you're putting your opponent in a position where they're making tough choices, actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think it goes over the edge of us. Maybe we do it, and I feel like maybe we do a little bit, and by we are just being casters, is not talk about the healing kind of crystal power enough, because 21 is a big number right now, considering Bozzzton was pretty much dead regardless. So going up to that kind of health total makes him feel very, very safe, no doubt. And now he can do Gift of the Wild.
He can.
And I think he should. I think even though it's only 4 minions, I think just lock that in now. KT is gone. When are you realistically going to stick a board big enough or bigger than this?
I think interestingly, perhaps Metamorphosis is the card that Bozzzton's line kind of paid some heed to, because he healed twice instead of using those crystal powers as removal. But I believe he started at 11 that turn. So with the big taunt wall and Kayn dead, he would still be potentially out of range of the 2 Metamorphosis. It would be like Metamorphosis and the other Gladebound add-ons that he'd have to run into.
There's the Gift of the Wild.
I like this plan of, I don't need my things to have Taunt. I'm just going to set up lethal by going face. I'm at 21. It's your job to clear this, RDU.
RDU can. But I believe he would be quite dead if he did it with just the Warglaive. Although the hand looked insane, a timely Kael'thas, along with a few cheap spells, just to make the Druid world go round, Sol. Oh, I-beam though. Good pick up.
It's an absurd I-beam. Although, hold on. Does he... Altruis goes all the way to Battle Fiend next turn. So yeah, that's fine. Well, he's still relying on what his top deck will be, is the problem.
Time grows short.
That's 4 mana, and bear in mind RDU is running the lower curve Demon Hunter.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he had to do it just to not be dead on board, I guess.
I grow impatient.
Now, funnily enough, if Bozzzton just says Forest Aid next turn, then that is a very clearable board for RDU. Oh! Ironbark is going to help massively.
Not
with that, though.
anymore.
What to do?
If RDU ever wanted to see a twin slice in his life, it's right now. That's the question, right? Do you even need to play it? Are you beating every non-altruist card in your opponent's deck anyway?
You've just seen an I-Beam. Maybe you could just pass.
I think you need to play. You don't have... So just like Glade-bound Adepts for... Oh, that's close. That's not Twin Slice, but it's close. In fact, it might even be better.
So Altruist goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that just 5?
It's 4.
Yeah,
it goes up. It goes up to Sato.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I counted that. That looks like enough to me, Sol, to clear this board. And heal up to 10. Up to 10, sorry. Oh, what a turn.
And Savage Roar off the top. The ultimate BM for Bozzzton. Look at RDU's face. Oh, he just had the most smug little half smile on his face just for a split second there. It made me happy.
Not for the first time in online competitive Hearthstone. I wish the players could see each other on camera. Would be hilarious. Savage Roar just onto Altruist here. It just has to be done, right? If he leaves it up, it only does a lot of damage, but he's just open to even more damage going forward. And almost zero chance of sticking a board in the future for Bozzzton.
Sightless Watcher is a pretty great pickup in this situation.
Probably went for Sigil Runner, I imagine.
I think so, yeah.
The cycle.
Job's done.
What can Bozzzton even draw? Exactly Overflow?
Is there only one copy of Starfall in his deck? Does he play one or two?
Starfall, only one.
Yeah, okay. That's gone. Even then, he'd just be dead to the weapon plus hero power.
Whew, okay. That was back and forth. And RDU with the sauce. Oh, gonna work on the timing just a little bit there. I know that. I think that's a rehearsal thing, got to be done just to know how long the camera normally sits, but still RDU got to be happy with that outcome because he was just dead, right? Otherwise, there was no beating that board unless he had exactly the Altruist clear, especially with the Ironbark from Bozzzton. Made it so awkward, but the I-Beam into I-Beam on the back-to-back turns was huge for him there. So incredible game, RDU taking it 2-1 so far over Bozzzton. A spicy series, Sol.
It is pretty sick so far. Nice to see RDU fully embracing his newfound career as a cringe streamer. Well done, sir. We all enjoy it. We all love you for it. But yeah, really interesting game. I'd love to just go back in time and just see like the play that jumped out to me immediately from the Kael'thas turn instead. Because it's very possible that I'm just so like guilty in that scenario of like, well, here's a play he can do. It's insane. It gives him like maximum discount on his spells. This has to be the line, right? And I honestly hadn't just considered the line that Bozzzton took in that scenario, which of course does have its merits in terms of the additional healing and dealing with metamorphosis threat and all that. But I'd love to be able to turn back time and take a look at the other scenario.
Yeah, and there's also the idea that we touch on. I think most of the regions have spoke about this, and it comes up now and again depending on the meta or key cards in the meta. But a card like Kael'thas, we have seen players wait too long. and being indecisive, making a turn. Yes, in that specific scenario, Bozzzton didn't have too many cards to work with, but in general, those turns we've seen some players mess them up because like, oh, what if I go for this? Maybe I do that. Maybe I do this. Whereas at least if you've got what you see as a logical, strong play, whether it was the play you suggested, Subtle, or the play that had merits, and we saw the outcome of that from Bozzzton, I think it was just good that it was, here's the play, it's good, I'm not dead to most things, go for it, put it on board, and it create the issues there. So I think that was good overall. Just a little bit unfortunate there for Bozzzton that the Altruis, and most importantly, I think as well, the I-beams, because it healed out of you for 6. Like, there was a savage draw off the top as well. He could have just been dead without those I-beams, right? So it was so close. I do believe we are getting to our next game, and maybe our final game, if RDU can take a win on this zoo. He's going to be going up against Bozzzton's.
Whoa! Illegal! Actually illegal. Alert the authorities.
Yeah.
That mulligan was disgusting. I was even going to raise the question, the ridiculous question of whether you ever throw away, you know, the combination as powerful as Merchant Hand of Gul'dan, because you don't have Scrap Imp in your hand, and Scrap Imp is so much disproportionate power compared to everything else in your deck. The answer's probably no, but we were going to have a talk about it, Raven. And then RDU just throws away 2 cards and just 2 moles into the Scrap Imp anyway. No, that's not okay.
Not even that, Sol. Scrap Imp and Shield Bearer.
Yeah. Yep.
Against Space Hunter. Oh, insanity. He's running
Now the
Shield Bearer
Matron as
list.
well.
But yeah, this is nigh on, if not just a perfect opening for RDU on this zoo list here.
Our Matron as well for the rediscard. Whew.
I wonder.
Okay, if I'm searching really hard for a negative, this might be one of those zoo hands that gets too full of Hands of Gul'dan at some point, based on needing to make room for other cards in there, but when that's your problem, I mean, that is the very definition of first world problems, right?
Especially if we can look at Bozzzton's hand, although has a lot of damage, double scrap shot. I mean, I've spoken to you about this anyway, but it feels so slow.
It does.
It does have the insane combo of scavengers and double scrap shot to make one rather large beast, but it just feels so slow. And just to check, Bozzzton is running the Stone Tusk 4 version and not, say, the Porcupine version we saw from Level 1. So it's going to be these big charge minions, which I think in this matchup is probably going to be better to muscle out Carpets and other high-threat minions.
Yeah, the Carpet is probably the one thing that RDU is missing from a fully realized game plan here, but just Wall of Giant Taunts this turn I think will do absolutely fine. Curves that back into plenty more card draw next turn.
Job's done.
And this is already honestly too much. Because Face Hunter isn't called play for the board hunter, right? I know you can play like that, and one, that's would be a terrible name for a deck. But also, the board is just too big. That's what Zoo does right now with this Scrap Imp. It makes an unfair size minions that can be played very early on in the game. And most of the time, outside of specialist decks in terms of being able to freeze and stall out on big AoE removals, most decks just aren't equipped to deal with this kind of threat in one turn.
Yeah, the good news is that Bozzzton does have an explosive trap up, so he can sort of pick and choose some situations, soften up some minions so they're not relevant face threats. Because this is very much a race matchup in my experience. At some point, both players just have to ignore the board state and start pushing a bunch of damage face. Because Zoo can't trade forever, because even then, if you're just completely dominating the board, you've life-tapped a couple of times, they've hero-powered a couple of times, they've ended up with like a 7/7 boar in their hand or something, and then you're just dying to charge damage and kill command and whatever else. So you do have to get on with it as Zoo. So at least maybe Bozzzton can protect some minions from explosive here.
Yeah, one thing I will mention is RDU probably doesn't need to life-tap anymore in this game, just because of the Matron.
No.
So that does save some health, but in a normal game, you are completely right. If you life tap to it, you start to feel it in the later game.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I did wonder whether Bozzzton was just going to have to go a bit nuts and just go Scavengers, hero power, and then have scrap shot, and then lethal with a pig. just as the overall plan. probably a little bit brave, but still, I would have liked to have seen it happen.
Yeah.
The key point in that, in me, or at least the smallest level of seriousness, was that he has the targetable hero power, which makes it much more powerful than just damage to face.
You were just a
Oh, wins the 50-50 as well and getting the damage immediately. It's a cute little play on the sequencing to just try and push maximum damage that turn. Essentially, he got the Fiendish Servant to both trade and go face in the same turn with the way that he did it, which is pretty cool.
And here we go, Saul.
It's a moderately sized pig. We need... Those do look like rookie numbers to me, though, Raven. He needs to get those up.
What if I, instead of buffing the 1 pig, I would trade you 2 pigs with a second scavenger?
I wonder.
Oh, Bozzzton, this has been a brutal one, hasn't it?
Play 1, trade it into the scrap imp. That just has to happen.
Wait, why are you killing a 3-1 instead of a 7-3?
Quickly.
Well, yeah, okay.
I know it's hopeless, Raven, but don't give up that hard.
I'm trying to think if like there's any way in which you could just play off the board with minions left over for Bozzdon and then just never let RDU stick anything. But I know that's the extreme, but oh, I love it! I love it.
Better plan.
Yes!
Better plan.
Even better.
Yes.
Doesn't even sound lethal.
Nope.
If RDU passed this turn,
You
it
shall
still wouldn't be
not
dead.
pass.
Is that true?
Well
4,
played.
8, 11, 13. Yeah, that is true. Excellent.
Oh,
Got you, friend.
oh, Hearthstone. Crazy little game. RDU not going to take any risks though. And this is just a quick march to a quick victory here for RDU. He takes it 3-1 over Bozzdon, 2-0 in Grandmasters round robin so far. Honestly, you've got to be happy with that, with the results in the Swiss, with getting placed in Division B. If there's something you want to happen as a player in that circumstance, is to get off to a fantastic start in the round robin, because this is where it all counts now. And having 2-0 so far might by the end of the weekend be 3-0, probably top of the group. That's the job these players have to do right now. And RDU's doing it.
Yeah, and RDU does have the doubleheader this weekend. He only played once last week, I believe, so he is capable of going out to that 3-0 score now. But yeah, I mean, that last game, what more can you say about it? That was just absolute savagery. When you keep non-scrap imp cards and then just mulligan into the scrap imp anyway, like, by definition, your hand is perfect at that point, right? Like, there are very few cards you're keeping that aren't scrap imp when you're playing Zoo in a lot of matchups, and that was just absurd from RDU. Hard to imagine that game going any better for him.
Yeah, it really is insane. And again, I feel like we have gone on a journey of discovery with Zoo over the course of this Grandmaster season, from being a bit of a lower played deck. But wait for it. It was a deck that has not been well represented, especially in the first week, and maybe even the second week. We saw only really the French players in our region bring it, and then a few dotted around Americas, maybe 1 or 2 in Asia Pacific, to it becoming very quickly just a recognized staple. I think, like, long gone. Obviously, there was the Sacrificial Pact nerfs, but I feel like Galakron Warlock's just long gone now. It's Zoo and which build of Zoo. And I feel like it is just going to continue. We've touched on some of the builds and some of the newer builds that are even coming out today. And I am excited to see how that continues. But again, congratulations to RDU. Oh, go on.
I would like to state once for posterity that I have been a Zoomer since day one, okay? And I'm fed up with this business where we get pegged together and I'll go, oh, the Europe casters don't like Zoo. It's like people say, oh, the Europe casters can't pronounce Shaman properly. As with that, it's your fault entirely, Raven. I want everyone to fully understand that.
Not true at all. I think I said Zoo was the future of the world. And
this is like hot takes with TJ all over again. Just the power of reason cannot get through.
Yeah, so I just want to say as one last sentence on that is I got all the points and I won the argument. And now we're going to go to a break. So we'll be right back with some more Hearthstone. We've got matches number 3 and 4 coming right up. Don't go anywhere.